But anyway, it's time for our consumer tech segment. And today we're talking about the war of the messaging platforms. We've got WhatsApp in one corner. We've got Telegram in another. We've got Signal. What do you need to know about all these platforms, especially with conversations arising about privacy issues and everything else? And of course, I have the right guy to talk to us about it. Philip Kofi Ashon. He's the host of City Trends on 97.3 City FM. And look out for a new season in 2021. Yeah, new season of City Trends is coming very soon. He's also the head of TV production here at City TV. Hey, Phil.
Hey, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. And yes, indeed, we will definitely call it a war because that is what it is. It's a war that has to do with user data. It's a war that has to do with money, a lot of money involved. It's a war that has to do with where we go from here with regards communication and staying in touch with people. I mean, the whole essence of messaging is to stay in touch with people too. Whether it is from a person to another person, or from a person to a business, or from a business to a business, we have always been in this situation where we need to find the most effective ways to communicate. So you have an email, which obviously a lot of people are using today. But then one of the most effective ways of communicating between either persons or persons and businesses is through messaging. And a number of messaging platforms have come up. We'll be showing viewers just how many we've had so far. We have so many. We have tons of them. Some of them I'm sure most people don't even know about. But there are quite a number of messaging platforms available today. Popular, of course, amongst them is WhatsApp. Is Telegram.
I don't even know how WhatsApp just came and blew everybody out of the game.
It's been around for a while, since 2009.
Yeah,
that's when WhatsApp started becoming an issue, and then it was of course acquired by Facebook
and there was
in
still
2014.
BBM
there was BBM
point,
at some point, which died unfortunately. But I mean, WhatsApp began as a messaging platform in 2009, relatively small. It was purchased by Facebook sometime in 2014 for $22 billion US dollars, and currently it has about 2 billion active users, or 2 billion users generally worldwide. And it's a very incredible number when you think about it. It just rolls off the tongue. Yes, 2 billion.
But that's almost a third of the world's population.
2 billion people currently use WhatsApp globally. And that just puts a lot of things in perspective. So WhatsApp is generally the most popular one. And I mean, it goes without saying, almost everybody has gotten accustomed to using WhatsApp for one reason or the other. It's just there for everybody to use. It's either you're making a video call, which helps for international communication. So you have an auntie living somewhere in Nebraska, you are sitting somewhere in Ablekuma Central or wherever, you can easily do a video call or send a message to them. And of course, with the introduction of end-to-end encryption, and generally end-to-end encryption basically stands for nobody in between yourself and the person you're communicating with having access to the information. So we talked about this last year, but generally when you send a message to someone, so let's say I'm messaging you, when I send a message from my device, it goes to a server which then passes the information on to you. End-to-end encryption basically means that when the message leaves my phone, it is coded. Nobody else can get access to it.
So you don't have anybody sitting somewhere
having access to it.
Looking at my messages.
And the only way it can be read is by you, the person I'm sending a message to. So the encryption happens on my end, the decryption happens on your end, and it's the same when the information is being sent from you to me as well. So basically that's what end-to-end encryption has. And WhatsApp introduced it a couple of years ago. So I mean, that's been generally the issue. Then of course comes along Telegram. Now, Telegram was started somewhere in 2013. It has surpassed 500 million users. And most of these new users actually came through just, with the incident that we're going to be talking about in proper detail later today. So, I mean, you have currently 500 million active users. And it has 25 million users generally, like globally. Now, look at the numbers. We have 2 billion users on WhatsApp, and we have 25 million users on, what do you call it? Or 25 million active users on. So, I mean, there you have it. So that's Telegram generally, and its offering. But in case you don't know Telegram, this is what Telegram looks like. So, like I said, 25 million active users or new users have been added to the Telegram family within the last 72 hours, just because of everything that is happening with WhatsApp. So you have 500 million active users as we speak today, but then within the last 72 hours, 25 million new users have been added to the platform.
That's massive.
Currently. So obviously, the announcement by WhatsApp has changed quite a lot. And we can't joke around it. We can't.
And the fact that they announced it to us individually, sent it to us in our inboxes.
I mean, we will get to all those details in a bit. But one of the other platforms that has come up, for conversation, obviously amidst all of this, is Signal, which was set up in 2014. Now, the Signal conversation is very interesting because Signal is actually started off by a non-profit, actually by one guy who owns like a majority stake. He pumped $50 million of his own money into setting up Signal. Now, guess who this person is?
Okay,
this
so
person,
got Signal.
Yeah, that's Signal. That's the Signal homepage. Now, this person is Brian Acton. Now, what's interesting about Brian is that Brian is actually one of the co-founders of WhatsApp.
And then he left.
Yeah, he left because of difficulties with Mark Zuckerberg, who is the owner of Facebook, who bought Facebook.
Yeah.
He left because of challenges and differences with regards
philosophies,
what happens to user data. And so in the setting, in his moving away from WhatsApp and basically pumping all this money into the setting up of Signal, the whole idea was we need to make communication more secure.
I'm curious, so did Brian make his money while he was working at WhatsApp?
And I mean, he was one of the founders of WhatsApp. He was one of the founders of WhatsApp. And the philosophy obviously changed when Facebook made the purchase. So, I mean, it's a very interesting circle in terms of who owns what and who has stakeholder information about what. But basically, you have someone who was working with WhatsApp to understanding how the messaging world works. Basically moving away because of differences with the Facebook ownership about user data and how they give it out to people and companies to use. So he goes ahead, commits $50 million of his own money to set up Signal. Now there's a Signal Foundation that also is in charge of the running of Signal and all its other subsidiaries and everything. So generally, these are the three big fishes when it comes to messaging. So you have your WhatsApp, you have your Telegram, and then you have your Signal. Signal, like I said, set up in 2014. WhatsApp set up in 2009. And then Telegram set up in 2013. So you have these three big players. Obviously, WhatsApp is the biggest player and the fish of them all. So what exactly is going on? Now, what is happening is that one of the key things about messaging someone is that when I talk to you and I'm having a one-on-one conversation with you, I prefer that nobody else listens to the conversation. I prefer that the things that we're talking about are not shared with other people. That is, in essence, what privacy is all about. And that is why all these three platforms and most other social messaging platforms have what they call end-to-end encryption, which I've explained. There's a graphic that I'm going to show you guys on our screens right now that basically outlines who does what in terms of, what sort of encryption that, they offer. And it's something that was put together by Amnesty International, which sort of breaks down who provides the best privacy, as it were. So we're going to put that on the screen in just a couple of seconds. But basically, it will give you an idea of who is providing what kind of security for who. So you have some of the platforms providing end-to-end encryption. So this one is also one of them. So you have all these messaging platforms. You have everything from status to Telegram to Signal to WhatsApp to WeChat to Messenger even. And you have in there a breakdown of what most of these platforms are offering. So you can see perfect forward secrecy. So most of them have it. Now, the key issues have to do with interaction. So no phone number or email required in terms of signing up. You can see the status has that. But then for Telegram, for Signal, for WhatsApp, you do need a phone number to be able to. App Server completely open source. So basically, open source means that the code that was used to sort of set up the platform is open for everybody to be able to interact with. And you can see there, it's only status. So in actual fact, when you actually think about security thoroughly, Status seems to be one of the most secure
very
platforms.
secure.
If
They're
you're
ticking
actually,
all the boxes.
If you're actually very, 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 very worried about, you know, what you call your security and your privacy, Status should be the only app.
WeChat doesn't tick any.
That one, we'll come to that one in a bit. I'm guessing that's why we don't use it. But, you know, basically, this gives you a good sense of what all these platforms require. And from this chat alone, it does tell you that Status honestly should be the only one anybody should be worried about. Anybody should be worried about. So, but I mean, we'll come to that. We have another graphic that we're going to put on the screen right now, talking about in terms of security, and it's, like I said, it's put together by Amnesty International, which tells us or gives us a further layer into privacy and what privacy offers and things like that. But I mean, when you look at this, it gives you a good sense of what these platforms require for you to sign up, for example, what sort of information will be needed. And this is the one I was talking about. So which messaging app is best for protecting privacy? So you can see it has end-to-end encryption as default. And you can see there, WhatsApp is there, Apple iMessage is there, Apple FaceTime is there, you have Google Duo, you have Viber and things like that. Has end-to-end encryption, but not as default. And then comes Messenger, you have the Google Hello, you have Telegram Messenger, and all of that. Does not have end-to-end encryption. And you have the Microsoft Skype, Snapchat, you know, all the others. BBM also didn't have. Now, like I said, all of this is just to put a lot of these things into perspective, because it is very easy for, you know, people to up and say, oh, I want security, I want privacy, but what does it actually mean for you? What does it actually mean? Do you actually understand what it means to have the privacy? So for example, you want to go to Signal, but at the same time, you want to sell your status, and you want to market, and you want to sell. Do you understand what all of that means? If you don't, then you probably need to take a step back and reconsider your decision to just jump ship just because a lot of people are having a conversation about your privacy.
Exactly.
So back to the issue. So we have these messaging platforms, some of them offering end-to-end encryption as default, some of them not necessarily offering it. We've seen that clearly there are some which are more secure than others. If privacy is supposed to be, you know, the main issue, there are some which are way more secure than others. So where do we go on from here? So we are here, and then last week we hear that WhatsApp is making changes to its privacy settings. Everybody is all up in arms. What are they doing? Basically, they are going to make more information available to the parent company, which is Facebook. Now, a lot of these technology companies thrive on one key commodity, which is data. Refined data, scrutinized data, well labeled and well outlined data. That is the main way they make money, whether it is Facebook or Google or whichever. Now, why is data important? Because they need to sell advertising slots to companies that want to sell products to you. So you are a company, you want to appeal to people who are between the ages of 18 and 21, who wake up at 6 a.m. in the morning, drive to work in a Hyundai, and buy fuel twice a week. You want to sell your product to that specific person. How do we get that specific person for you? It is only through data that is collected. So when you sign up to Facebook and you're signing up to all these things, they are learning about you. Google does the same thing. That's why sometimes in your Google search,
now Google is becoming so invasive. Like
Google is literally a verb now. Like
I walk somewhere and then oh, how did you find this place?
And then at the end of every month, you get a breakdown of all the places you've been to because Google is tracking your location. All this information is gathered about you in order for them to sell on to third parties who are looking to send advertising to you or pitch products to you. They call it targeted advertising, however you want to phrase it. So data is gold. Now, in order to be able to collect all this data, they need often your permission to be able to collect all this information from you and then pass it on to whoever so that they can make good money off it. Now, the only way they stay in business is by collecting this great data and then selling it off. Now, if they don't collect the data, they can't sell it off and they can't keep the business in play. Now, if they don't keep the business in play, how do we message each other?
Exactly.
How do we stay in touch? You have a Google or a Gmail account. You have, what, 15 gig of free space.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you think that is funded? It is just by the data that you give. When, for example, you are asked to pay like 5 CDs or 10 CDs a month in order to upgrade your Google.
Extra space.
That is where all of this money is coming from. So your data, your information that they gather about you is basically what they have to sell on to make their money. So that also settles the issue of where all of this is coming from. So this week, the CEO of WhatsApp, the current CEO of WhatsApp, after obviously observing all the conversation about what's going on, decided to make his voice heard on Twitter. So he went onto Twitter to break down exactly what has happened, and we're going to have a look at that. So this is the CEO.
And it's interesting that he went onto Twitter.
We'll come to that. So this is the CEO of WhatsApp currently. He's the head of WhatsApp at Facebook, basically talking about what has happened. And I mean, all of this is important, but I want us to look at from his message there. He says, with end-to-end encryption, we cannot see private chats or calls, and neither can Facebook. We are committed to this technology and committed to defending it globally, which is true. We've updated our policy to be transparent and to better describe optional people-to-business features. Now, this is the part that I think people should pay close attention to. We wrote about it in October. This includes blah, blah, blah. And so that part there is the most important thing. The update affects people-to-business conversations. So we know that WhatsApp has WhatsApp Business, which is one of the offerings that WhatsApp has for its people. So if you're a business, you can communicate directly to people. People can communicate directly to you. However, what are the parameters that guide all of that? That is why this release was important. Now, this part here, not everyone may realize how common it is for WhatsApp message businesses in many countries. So in fact, about 175 million people message a business account every day on WhatsApp, and more want to do so.
I mean, we can take Ghana as an example. But most, I mean, and it's so annoying. You go to Instagram, you go to Twitter, you go to Facebook, you visit someone's business account, and then they put a WhatsApp number, WhatsApp for information, WhatsApp to order.
And that's where it is. But what are the rules that guide this?
Right.
How much of this information should be made available to Facebook? There should be guidelines for this. And this is the reason why WhatsApp went ahead to release the changes or the privacy changes that it did, because they are being scrutinized.
Right.
A lot of tech companies, because they're not so big, don't get that level of scrutiny. I mean, a couple of months ago, when the CEOs of Facebook, Google, Apple were summoned before the Senate to be questioned, a lot of these other tech companies didn't make it into that list because they
TikTok
are not.
didn't make it.
They are not scrutinized as much. And so you need to understand that a lot of these companies are indeed being very well scrutinized just because they offer such great service to so many different people. And so for a lot of people who probably don't know, the main changes that have happened with the privacy issue, the reason why everybody's all up in arms, is mostly has to do with people communicating with business accounts. Right. And these are the parameters that need to be set in place. So basically that's what's happening. Now, what sort of impact has it had after the announcement? I personally think that WhatsApp could have probably done a better job in terms of the way it communicated it, but hey, it's their business, it's their company, they know what they're doing. Now, it is so incredible. Within the last week, Signal is the most downloaded app on the App Store, for example, for like, it's just been at the very top. Like I said, Telegram currently has 25 million new users in just 72 hours. Amazing. And yesterday, if you have Telegram, you would have received a message that was basically announcing the number of new active users it has.
Okay. Now, so Phil, we're out of time, so we need to, just wrap it up. So basically,
the impact has obviously been huge. But what I think people need to understand is there are a lot of things that you take for granted as a user of any messaging platform. You have to understand a number of things. Number one, the only way these companies stay in business, at least WhatsApp and Facebook and these others, is based on your data. Now, you are migrating onto another platform. Some features you might know about, some features you might not know about. But think about it. If all of us move, for example, to Telegram, how is Telegram making its money? That's one of the questions that people need to genuinely ask. Now, at which point is Telegram going to tell you, okay, so we need to make this adjustment to our privacy policy, obviously because of the pressure that they are having? Yes, it's nice that you have a business that is supported by donors from all over the world, but how long can those businesses go on with just donations? So it's not necessarily just a decision of wanting to switch, but what are you switching for? Facebook, as we know, and I mean WhatsApp, as we know, and I just wanted to show a quick one of some of the things that are not being touched at all.
We actually don't have enough time for that.
Unfortunately. But whichever one it is, all I just want to point out is the fact that your messages are not being accessed by WhatsApp. That's one of the major things that we need to understand. WhatsApp end-to-end encryption still exists, still works. It's and this is the one I was talking about. So WhatsApp protects and secures your private messages. So as you can see there, your messages are not being read by WhatsApp. They are not. So well and truly, what really is forcing you or pushing you to
move
switch?
to another platform.
The main issue here with the privacy settings is because WhatsApp needs to set the barriers in place in terms of defining what communication with a business account actually means. And that's the core of everything, all the talk and all this conversation. That's at the heart of it all. So basically that's the war that's happening with the messaging platforms. Obviously, if someone is going down, you know, all the others would want to stick around and then benefit from it. But really, well and truly, when you get a better understanding of what is happening with the various platforms, it helps to put things in perspective, and that's why I felt that this conversation was important.
Okay, thank you, Phil. So we've been talking about the messaging platforms, the war of the messaging platforms, all that you need to know amidst privacy conversations that have popped up over the last week or so. And of course, Philip Kofi Ashon, he's host of City Trends on 97.3 City FM, also head of TV production here at City TV. We'll be right back.